Hey Rev Heads, Santina and Will from Revelry Cycles here in Sydney, Australia. It's so good to be back. We missed you. Can you believe this is our first video of 2021? After the great motorcycle shortage of 2020, the pipelines started to open up and we had a lot of back orders to get through. So thanks for being patient while we made all of our customers happy and got them on new motorcycles. Today, we are coming to you with our next video in our series about high performance stuff for your 650, and we're going to talk to you about the often misunderstood and frequently underappreciated clutch.
So far in this video series, we've shown you lots of ways to increase your engine's efficiency and power and torque. And today we're going to show you what the clutch is, how it works, and its role in managing that power and torque transfer from the engine through the transmission to the rear wheel. We're also going to show you how you can improve the efficiency of the clutch and how doing that not only can dramatically increase its ability to hold power and torque, but it can also really increase the rider's control of how that power and torque is transferred through the transmission to the rear wheel. It's actually kind of cool. So
very cool.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Let's start by looking at all of the parts that make up your stock 650 slipper clutch. This is the clutch assembly. Your clutch assembly has a spring plate. Let's rip that off. Get the spring plate off, and that will get us to the springs and the pressure plate. Under here we have your clutch actuator pin, and this is your clutch pack. Your clutch pack is made up of plates. There are two types of plates in your clutch pack. There are friction plates and there are steel plates. In here we've got your clutch hub, and on your clutch hub here is your judder spring assembly. Now, on your hub, that's where your steel plates are splined to. Right up there. And then this is your clutch basket or your clutch shell, and the clutch shell is where your friction plates are splined to. And that's it. That makes all of your slipper clutch on your stock 650.
Now let's take a look at how the stock Royal Enfield clutch is assembled and how it functions. The clutch shell is driven by the crankshaft on this gear. So when the crankshaft turns, it drives the clutch shell. The clutch hub is attached to the transmission main shaft, and it would then, once power is applied to it, it feeds power to the transmission and out to the rear wheel. Before I show you how to assemble that, I just want to show you the assist slipper function. That's provided by a combination of the clutch hub and the pressure plate. These ramps that meet from the pressure plate and the clutch hub alter the distance, so the amount of force on the clutch is determined by this distance. So this is the distance that your clutch pack has to stack up in. As this distance increases, the clutch releases. As it decreases, the clutch is engaged. So the assist and slipper function is just that. Those ramps, when power is being applied to the clutch hub and the plates are being under power driven by the engine, it pulls those ramps together, putting more pressure on the clutch plates and helping them hold. So that's the assist part. The slipper part is when you shut the throttle off, especially if you shut it off violently, and the rear wheel is trying to turn the motor in the other direction. It drives the ramps drive the pressure plate and the hub apart to allow the clutch to slip at least a limited amount to prevent the rear wheel from locking up and hopping when you shut the throttle off. That's the assisted slipper clutch function. So once the shell's in, the clutch hub goes in on the main shaft. We'll put this nut on there, and you should be aware that this nut is a left-hand thread. So if you put your rattle gun on it and turn it the wrong way, trying to break it loose, and you snap the end off the main shaft, it's a pretty expensive mistake. So now the shell and the hub are in. Shell's turning, hub's turning independent of it on the main shaft. Now you have two different kinds of friction plates and two different kinds of steel plates, and the difference is the inside diameter of the plate. This, three of these plates in the stock clutch pack, and the first of those goes over this judder spring, which goes up against the clutch hub. The judder spring is a seat and a convex, or concave, I guess, depending on which way you look at it, spring that is there to help prevent, it's called clutch judder. And clutch judder is as all of these plates begin to stack together under pressure, they can shudder or judder. And the effect that you can get is much like a yank. It can make for a hard clutch engagement. And this judder spring just helps smooth that out a little bit. So judder spring and seat go in against the clutch hub. Then the first of those larger diameter friction plates goes in over it. Then you just stack steel plates in, steel friction, steel friction. The steel plates are directional. There's a round side you can feel, and then there's a very sharp side. That's a result of the plates being stamped. And as a general rule, the steel plates should be installed with the rounded side facing in the direction of clutch disengagement. In this case, this pressure plate moves away from the hub, so the round side should face out. So you just stack all those steel plates in there, rounded side out, followed by a friction plate, until you've got the whole clutch pack stacked together. And of course, I'm sure somebody's going to comment, "Oh, you should soak those in oil." Yeah, absolutely should, but this is not a running motor, so I'm not going to soak these clutch plates in oil. Plus, boy, is it messy for a demonstration. Now, there is one steel plate that is different from all the others, and that is different in its inside diameter. Right? And that steel plate has to go up over the splines on this pressure plate. So the last two friction plates are the large diameter, because they also have to fit over the splines of this pressure plate. And those two, you'll notice in the clutch shell, there are long splines or fingers, and there's two short ones. These last two plates go in the two short fingers. So this last plate goes in not in the same slot as the rest of them. And the last one goes right up against the pressure plate. So you have to put the steel plate on and the last friction plate on that pressure plate, and then line all that up with the assist slipper ramps and get that friction plate into the short fingers without dropping that steel plate off the pressure plate, which takes a little finesse, but that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like when it's finished. Now, I'm going to assemble this not with the stock springs, but with these little light springs so that I can actuate the clutch. And if I'm going to do that, I guess I need to put the actuator in. So Sorry, should have put the actuator in there. So with the actuator pin in place, now I can put that back. Something I can do it without dropping that plate. There we go. Now, put these light springs in. And we'll put the spring plate on and we'll show you how the clutch actually works. So now that those clutch plates are all stacked together, when I turn the crankshaft, the whole assembly is going to turn. You can see the main shaft of the transmission is turning. So this is attached to the engine, this is attached to the transmission, it's all turning. When we pull our clutch lever, that clutch lever pulls on this pin and releases the clutch. And now you see the engine is turning, the crankshaft's turning, but as I release the spring pressure on the clutch, transmission's no longer turning. So with this turning, as I let go of the lever and this begins to stack together, it starts to turn the transmission main shaft. When it's in gear, the sprocket's turning, rear wheel's turning, and you're driving down the road. Now let's take a look at how the clutch release mechanism works. You've got the actuator pin that's actually being held inside the clutch pressure plate with the bearing. But I just want to show you how this one goes on. When you put the covers back on these, you can either take this lever off and just put the cover on and then put this lever back on, or you can bring this lever back just past 90 degrees, and as you put the cover on, the clutch release pin will engage with the teeth on this shaft as you push the cover on and bring it around to about that position where you can hook your clutch cable in and do your clutch adjustment. Once that's in place and you've got the clutch free play adjusted at the lever, when you pull the lever, you'll see this release mechanism being pulled towards the cover. That's how the release mechanism works. When you pull your clutch in, it's pulling the pressure plate away from the clutch head. And that's all there is to it.
Okay, so when would you need to improve on your clutch, and what are your options? You saw in Will's explanation of the slipper clutch that it's a really efficient design. So at what stage would you want to upgrade? And sort of the line in the sand, we would say, where you'd start to consider a clutch is high compression pistons, cam, larger throttle bodies, and a tuner. So at the 650 level, that's where you would sort of start to think about a clutch. Anytime you do a big bore, the clutch is a necessity. You're going to have to upgrade the clutch at that point. So the option we have for you today is the S&S supplied REKLUSE torque drive clutch. This is what that clutch pack looks like compared to the stock clutch pack. So the main thing you would notice sort of straight away is the number of plates. This kit actually has 3 more friction plates than the stock clutch pack. They're also made of different materials. So in this kit, your friction plates are steel, and in the stock kit, they are alloy. The difference is that steel doesn't expand as much as alloy when it's hot, and they also have improved friction material. So that just means that there'll be a smoother functioning clutch with a higher coefficient of friction. Because there are more plates, it also means there's more surface area for the friction to happen. So it's a much more efficient design. Really, really great option for a clutch upgrade. The other thing that this clutch has that we just think is such a smart design and really simple, it looks simple and brilliant. and that is these little steel sleeves. So on your clutch basket or on your clutch shell, in these little finger areas, you will get wear from the plates sort of moving around in there, and it'll create notching, and that will shorten the life of the clutch, and also it decreases its effectiveness because it doesn't move as freely. And so REKLUSE have come up with these steel sleeves, and they just line this area to give it a harder surface so that it wears better. Like, see, smart and simple. I absolutely love it. Definitely will extend the life of the clutch, and it's such a simple design. Really, really great. So the last part in this clutch kit are the springs. This is the upgraded spring compared to the stock clutch spring. This is a much stronger spring, so it's going to hold your clutch pack together better, but it still has a good feel for the rider and the lever, so not too difficult to pull closed. A nice combination of both. Good option. So this is the REKLUSE Torque Drive Clutch Kit upgrade for your 650.
Okay, what can you reasonably expect from an S&S REKLUSE Torque Drive Clutch Kit? Well, the clutch itself doesn't actually provide any additional horsepower or torque, but it is the critical link in getting any improvements you've made in horsepower or torque to the ground. So in a stock or near stock motorcycle, this clutch kit would provide smoother engagement, smoother operation, and properly adjusted and maintained, it would absolutely last longer. But in a full-on race application, it's a really critical link. You really sort of have to have it. And with the improvements in friction material, the core material in the friction plates, the number of plates, the spring pressure, this clutch should hold between half again and double the torque of a stock motor. Most production clutches are designed to hold somewhere between 20 and 30% more torque than the stock engine will produce, and that just gives you room for the clutch pack to wear over time until it comes to the point that it'll no longer hold that torque. With a clutch like this, it'll hold a whole lot more torque for a much longer period of time, and if you keep it maintained and adjusted, it should last a lot longer than a stock clutch, probably even in a performance motor. So far, knockwood, we haven't had any slippage with these clutches in any of our 865s or drag bikes, nothing. They've performed just flawlessly to date. So you can expect a clutch that will work and hold the power, and it's a good investment. This is a good product for the price.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us and for waiting for so long for our video. Honestly, this summer has just been absolute mayhem. With COVID, it just threw everything for a loop, but also, like, our videos have really brought us a lot of business, and we're really grateful for that. We've sold so many motorcycles to you guys, parts and T-shirts and all sorts of things. We're really, really grateful for that. Yeah, that makes it worthwhile. That makes us want to do more videos. Sadly, we're kind of victims of our own success. A lot of the S&S stuff's been sold out for a while, and we're having a hard time getting it. So, but I think that's probably good for everybody all around.
Yeah.
We want to remind you to like, share, subscribe, ring that bell, and leave us a comment below if you have a clutch question that we didn't answer in the video. We have also released another video about our new race program, so if you're local to us in Sydney, make sure that you look for that. Now, this is getting towards the end of our performance series.
We're certainly got one more video, maybe two, maybe three. But when we get the performance series wrapped up, we have every intention of doing sort of an overall summary, kind of grand finale to the whole thing. We get a lot of questions about very detailed, what will I get with this, this, and this, and we have accumulated a lot of that data over this time. So we will do a summary of this whole performance series and wrap it all up in a grand finale And then there are some other videos in the works. Once this performance series is over, we've got some ideas for some other stuff, some bike builds and things. We will do some drag race videos if we ever get to drag race again. We'll definitely be posting some drag racing videos and some videos from the pits and that sort of thing. So there's lots of stuff coming up.
Always something happening around here. We're always scheming.
Yeah, for sure.
But in the meantime, we want you to remember, if you ain't having fun,
You're doing it wrong.
see you next time, everybody.
Bye.